Tonight in Democracy20, celebrating gender equality's giant strides.
We have actually passed a number of laws that empower women, that promote their rights and protect women's rights.
Boosting tourism in the Eastern Cape.
There's a lot of focus around how to build rural tourism around the traditional leadership of the area.
And looking back in history on this day, startling testimony about third forced involvement in the so-called Shell House massacre. Well, good evening and welcome to this midweek edition of Democracy20, the program in which we look back at the accomplishments of 20 years of democracy in our country. Now, please do take part in the show. As we've been asking you to do, you can do this by sending us your emails, this to elections@sabc.co.za, or if you prefer, you can send an SMS to 33726. That's the number to send it to. And remember to begin your message with the word vote. And every SMS will obviously cost you around R150. For tweets, if you are social media savvy, use the hashtag SABC elections. And for those who'd like to use the Facebook page, better find us there on SABC News Online. Send us your comments, send us whatever you'd like us to chat about on the show as we deal with today's topic, and we'll try and use it as we engage with our guests. Now, for our first row of the day, and of course the topic of the evening, the women of South Africa have played a variety of roles in society as mothers, sisters, breadwinners, as well as caregivers. But today they are also lawyers, doctors, politicians, and even judges. Much has been achieved over the last 20 years in the recognition of the crucial role women play. But there are still many pockets of inequality, and the fight is sometimes a public, yet often unspoken one. The fight for gender equality remains a pervasive one.
The South African liberation struggle has been well documented. What many people may not know is that women fought for South Africa's liberation alongside their male counterparts. But they had another battle, the fight for equality. These were the women of the times. From the ordinary to the privileged, they united under one banner. Women shared the burdens of unequal treatment, and the brunt of inequality did not discriminate against color, background, or religious affiliation. In the 50s, women's struggle for equality adopted a militant approach. In 1954, the Federation of South African Women was launched. Here, South African women drafted their demands in the Women's Charter. Unified, they wrote, "We, the women of South Africa, wives and mothers, working women and housewives, African Indians, European and colored, hereby declare our aim of striving for the removal of all laws, regulations, conventions and customs that discriminate against us as women." 2 years later, 20,000 women of all races marched to the union buildings in Pretoria. They were protesting against being forced to carry passes, or dom passes as they were then known. From the 60s to the 90s, the struggle continued in exile and back at home. At the end of apartheid, some of the gains for equality could be seen. Women had risen into positions of leadership in liberation movements. They also participated in the CODESA talks. Patricia de Lille led the PAC delegation. With the birth of a non-racial democratic country, a constitutional dispensation was put into place. And with freedom, the responsibility to spread it to all members of society.
It is vitally important that all structures of government, including the president himself, should understand this fully, that freedom cannot be achieved unless the women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression.
Entrenched in South Africa's constitution, the Equality Clause. Everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. Independent statutory bodies, known as Chapter 9 institutions, were set up. Their mandate and provisions are founded in Chapter 9 of the Constitution. This gave birth to the Commission for Gender Equality. With the necessary checks and balances in place, South Africans set about the business of building a nation. Women found that their status had not changed much. They remained unequal in a politically free but patriarchal society. Change has been slow but steady. Landmark judgments in cases such as Bear versus the Magistrate of Khayelitsha ensured that laws discriminating against women are set aside.
We have actually passed a number of laws that empower women, that promote their rights, it at the workplace, in the home, but also in society at large.
One of the success stories of the gender equality battle is that of Dinyiko Shiluvane. Shiluvane was the eldest child of a Tsonga chief, but she wasn't allowed to become chief after her father died. The Constitutional Court ruled that she could take over the chieftaincy. South Africa's new democracy has done much to advance women's rights. Women's ascensions to powerful positions in government has increased, but the private sector lags behind. Much as the achievements have been, a mountain of challenges remains.
We cannot go on as a society with such high rates of brutal violence against women and children and lesbian women in South Africa. We need to change people's attitude so that women live freely.
Nearly 1 billion women worldwide experience sexual and physical violence. Even in South Africa, violence against women continues to make headlines. Recently, women took to the streets in protest against the assault of a woman at a local taxi rank for wearing a miniskirt. Another incident in Umlazi, a woman was publicly assaulted for wearing trousers. This after the local community put a ban on women wearing trousers. These and many others reflect deeply embedded attitudes.
Legislation doesn't change attitudes. So we need to also work on people's attitudes. Legislation is not going to change patriarchy. It's not going to change men's attitudes that they own women, that they have the right to abuse. It doesn't change the attitude of children abusing younger children because that's what they see at home.
The political arena has not been immune to gender issues. Even here, women find themselves struggling for equality.
What we find in the movement is what exists in society. A patriarchy. Patriarchy has been so well sweetened, where if you are alone, you are made to believe that you are the queen bee, and yet you are made to be the one that people are comfortable with, and the others that can actually make a difference are the ones who are being put on the side.
Although primarily focused on women, gender equality transcends beyond a single sex.
Women's emancipation is not the same as gender equality. And that is why you have institutions which deal specifically with gender equality. Because gender equality entails, amongst others, the liberation of men from the bondage of the past. The struggle for women emancipation must continue. But the Gender Commission must work hard to liberate men.
After 20 years of championing issues of gender, the Commission for Gender Equality held a summit to reflect and map out plans for the next 20 years to ensure the continued growth of a woman's status in society and the important role that she plays in building our country.
And we now welcome the chairperson of the Gender Equality Commission, Mfanozwile Shozi, in the program. Mr. Shozi is in our Durban studios. Mhloni Shasabwana, welcome to Democracy20. How are you doing this evening? Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting the Commission for Gender Equality. And I'm feeling fine, and the Commission is also feeling fine.
Now, we're 20 years into democracy, with all people, under the sun and the Constitution and numerous laws being fair and equal as far as that is concerned. Is the existence of laws and policies enough, though? Have they helped in any way to make sure that equality exists in reality?
Definitely. What was important was that discrimination in this country was institutionalized, which means then that there were laws that were discriminating against black people as well as women, and therefore our government after 1994 had to actually change those laws. It's critical that the laws need to be changed, and we can see that they are making a very interesting impact. We are seeing that there are more women now who are in parliament. who are seeing women who are judges. Therefore, the change of laws really make a very big impact, and therefore we cannot put that aside. But as other people have actually spoken before me in the inset, it's also critical to change people's attitudes about these issues, to go into the homes and educate people about what do we mean about gender equality. What do we mean if we say we should actually allow other sexes to actually have a stake in the economy, to have a stake in the things that we actually do. And therefore, and I think the starting point will always be we need to actually change laws. And I think in 1999, 1998, the first project of the Commission for Gender Equality was to actually do conduct an audit of all the South African laws and see how they could actually change most of the laws that were actually affecting women adversely. And therefore, the change of laws is very critical, and it's important that takes the country forward.
Vanozelo, you mentioned something about the economy. You mentioned about the fact that in Parliament all things seem to be fair and square. But SCASA says gender stats suggest that only 55% of women are literate, and yet we expect them to take, higher positions, particularly in the workforce.
Definitely, but what is also critical is that when you look at the Commission for Gender Equality has published a report on the MDGs 2 years ago, and what we also find was that when you look at the university level, you find that now there are more women than males. But what is also critical is that women are actually doing what I will term the soft causes, the social sciences and so on. When you go to the economics, when you go to the hard sciences, we are already seeing fewer women in those fields. And therefore it's also important. And I think we need to actually work hard, all of us as government, as families, to ensure that we change that. Really, and we also know that there are programs that have been put forth, for example, like the Karakode program, to actually try and actually educate women at the grassroots level, so that they could be on par with men when it comes to education. I think, but what is also critical is that we have now universal access to primary and secondary education. We are seeing both men and women attending school on an equal par, and I think that is also very important, because when you actually look, when you actually drift back to 1980s and 1979s, you can really see that there were more boys than girls in schools, but now we're seeing more girls attending primary and secondary education, and also a tertiary education. We're going to run out of time. I need to ask you a couple of more questions. The other issue that I'd like to deal with is the issue of cultural beliefs and culture, so to speak. How do you deal with practices such as ukuthala, polygamy, and so on, as far as gender equality is concerned? Because that's a major issue as far as society is concerned. It is a major issue. Remember that we have a law in South Africa called the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, and it defines what our harmful traditional practices are. And as the Commission for Gender Equality in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, we have dealt with the issues of ukuthala. We have actually rescued 3 or 4 women in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. And also, the other problem is the underage marriages, which we're actually confronting, more especially being perpetrated by the religious sector. And therefore, those are some of the issues that we deal with. And the public has actually launch complaints with us, because as a commission, people could come to us and lodge complaints, and we can investigate and actually deal with those issues. As a commission, we've done that, and we have reports on ukuthala, we have reports on underage marriages that we've actually conducted in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. And also in Mpumalanga, for example, the issue of underage marriages is also problematic, because mostly in the borders as well, Eastern Cape, in the borders of Mpumalanga and South Africa, we can see Mpumalanga and Mozambique, we can see that there's also human trafficking that's also taking place. We are dealing with those issues, Tabiso.
Babshoz, I'm going to ask you one more question, 30 seconds if you can wrap it up for me. Going forward, the role of the Gender Commission. Let's look at it.
Going forward for us, and I think we need to work together as a faith-based organization, traditional leadership, chapter institutions and government, and our role as a Gender Commission is to actually make sure that we entrench and educate people about gender equality, and need to actually make sure that we go to those conservative structures that still don't want to actually allow us to actually speak about some of these issues. And that is our role, and we feel that we need to actually work with everybody to do that.
Mr. Shozi, thank you very much for joining us right here on tonight's show, Democracy20. Vanozelo Shozi is chairperson of the Gender Equality Commission, and he was speaking to us from our Durban studios. Thank you very much for joining us. joining us indeed. Now, thank you very much. We've been asking you at home as well to send us your tweets, Facebook messages. Let's take a quick look at what has come through so far. This one coming from Dave. Dave is quite a regular viewer of the show. Gun786. He says, I think South African women are way better off in the past years. However, women abuse is what is lagging us behind as far as women's emancipation and, of course, equality in front of society as well as the law. Democracy20 takes a quick break. Don't go away. Stay with us right here. We've got more stories to tell.
An earth tremor has hit parts of Johannesburg. No damage or injuries have been reported after a magnitude 4 tremor this morning. The tremor shook parts of Johannesburg just before 10 this morning. It has been described as quite a big guy.
The provisional epicenter that the Council for Geoscience has given is a few kilometers southwest of the University of Johannesburg.
Previously in 1999, a similar tremor was recorded measuring 5.7 in Valcom. Another event of this magnitude can be expected again within the next 3 weeks.
That's Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News. Zoom into Africa. This is Burkina Faso. The president is Mr. Blaise Compaoré. Burkina Faso got independent from France on 5th August 1960. The population is more than 17 million people. One of Burkina Faso's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
With so many bad incidents happening around us, we continue sourcing, unpacking and televising nation-building and compassionate stories. From the nation's pride, those who go all out, top achievers, hard workers, those dedicated to making this country a better place, and unusual friendships. Catch all these and more on SABC News.
Right at the back of the Drakensberg Sun Hotel is the beautiful dam, where you can canoe and take a leisurely boat ride for your enjoyment.
The name of this dam is Black Nkwaku. It's about 15 meters deep.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Welcome back and thank you very much for watching. You're still watching Democracy 20. Now, the Eastern Cape Parks and Tourism Department is using the province's heritage to promote regional tourism in an effort to bolster the local economy and create jobs. The lack of development in the Dutwa area has had a negative impact on tourism, regarding as one of the industries with a strong growth potential.
Eastern Cape Parks and Tourism aims to use heritage in order to promote rural tourism. The province has already launched the Home of Legends campaign, where they are promoting the province using legends such as Nelson Mandela. Dutwa has a couple of legends, such as Walter Sisulu and Gavin Mbeki.
We are working on a conference that is going to look at how we, from a tourism point of view, should partner with local government to really begin to resuscitate parks that are in towns, to begin to resuscitate museums that people have, and get people partnering with the likes of Walter Sisulu University, who can narrate the history of that area so that then people can take full advantage of it.
Business owners in this area say lack of tourist attraction places around this town is contributing to the low number of guests they are getting.
There's actually nothing attracting in Idutwa, where you can say the tourists will come and see and be attracted on that. We normally get support from the tourists when they were preparing on June 2013. They were preparing for Mandela's grave. It is then that we have the support. And also on December, when there was a funeral of Utata. End of the story.
Other avenues being looked at to attract tourism is to bring back traditional sport.
People want to enhance traditional horse racing. It's something that has started off very small, but it's beginning to be organized. And I'm aware of at least one service provider who wants to mainstream traditional horse racing. Because as you will know that within the Mbashe area, that's where the Xhosa King actually stays. So there's a lot of focus around how to build rural tourism around the traditional leadership of the area.
Places such as Mbashe River, which forms part of Madiba's childhood story, will also be used to promote rural tourism in this area. Olutu Sota, SABC News in Dujwa.
We'll take a quick break. Don't go away. Stay with us right here on SABC 3 as well as SABC News Channel 404.
Zoom into Africa. This is Libya. The chairman of the General National Congress is Mr. Nouri Abu Samen. Libya got independent from Italy on 10 February in 1947. The population is more than 6 million people. One of Libya's major languages spoken is Arabic. Monetary unit, Libyan dinar.
You're watching Democracy20, a program in which we celebrate 20 years of democracy in South Africa. Still in the Eastern Cape now, a lack of proper sports facilities is seen as a hindrance to sport development in the rural areas. There are no proper facilities and sport teams in the area are not getting any support from government.
Mata Milan, a team from Dujwa, representing the Mbashe municipality in the Vodacom League for 6 seasons in a row. The team is driven by their goal of representing the Eastern Cape in the Premier Soccer League. Lack of proper sport facilities in this rural town could shatter some of these youngsters' dreams.
The condition is very bad, the condition here is Dujwa. The facilities, suffering the facility, even the pitch that we're using here. We have to wait for the rain to flow to get the grass to be fine. But if you don't have wait that way, it's very difficult. Even though you don't have any water in it.
The younger ones are at a disadvantage. At least we have managed to get to this division. But for them it's difficult because there are not enough fields and most of them have to come from villages.
A businessman in the area has taken it upon himself to assist teams such as Mata Milan. Teteleli Ngumbela took an initiative of upgrading the Ngakatla sports field about 5 kilometers outside Dujwa. His aim is to encourage young people to participate in sport. Over the years, he has also assisted soccer, netball and cricket teams with kits and balls. He sends a clear message that more needs to be done.
People of Dujwa, they didn't have grounds because what we are missing in government, when you build schools, you must make grounds for sport. And our government doesn't do that. That one is very important. That's why you don't see a black people in the South African team. We have to start from school.
Sport fans in the area say promises to upgrade sports facilities in the area are made every year, but they have not lost hope.
This ground was made on 2004, but the problem is that there is no maintenance. But Mbashe local municipality promised us last month that they will secure all the premises, all the facilities in next financial year.
In 1998, an attempt to build an indoor sports center in this area was made. The building was never completed and now stands as a white elephant near Dujwa Sports Ground. Olutu Sota, SABC News in Dujwa.
My favorite part of the program, time to look back in history. On this day, 17 years ago, a former Vlakplaas operative gave a startling testimony about Third Force involvement in the so-called Shell House massacre. Andries Hayden told the inquest into the 1994 killings how the IFP and Vlakpas operatives had planned to attack the then Shell House and kill ANC leaders. He also said he had been involved in a plan to spread HIV and AIDS amongst black women. This report was filed by SABC News reporter Zama Zondo on the 16th of April in 1997.
Andries Bruat van Heerden, a self-confessed murderer, sang like a canary about his third force activities in the Johannesburg High Court today. Mr. van Heerden is under a witness protection program, and presiding judge Robert Nugent ruled that pictures of Mr. van Heerden should not be used because the witness feared for his life. Mr. van Heerden is now a full-time employee of the National Intelligence Agency. He told the court he had handled Askaris who had contracted AIDS. The Askaris were sent to spread the disease by having sexual intercourse with black women. He also claimed responsibility for bombing the COSATU offices in Khotso House, planting a limpet mine in a cinema in Alexandra where the film Cry Freedom was to be shown, and the bombing of the Why Not restaurant in Johannesburg. Led by Dr. Tori Pretorius of the Special Investigation Team, Mr. van Heerden told the inquest that top IFP officials and former Flag Plus commander Eugene de Kock had planned to blow up the NC's headquarters Shell House. Among those involved in the plot were KwaZulu-Natal Public Works MEC Reverend Celani Mthethwa, IFP MP Themba Khoza, and the IFP's member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Humphrey Ndlovu. They allegedly planned to seek refuge in Shell House after pretending to run away from the marchers. Bombs would then have to be planted in the building. The hearing continues tomorrow. Zama Zondo, SABC, Johannesburg.
I was looking forward to seeing Zama Zondo and his nice haircut, which is very adamant back in the days. But anyway, that's the wrap of tonight's show. We'll be back tomorrow evening, same time, same place, right here at 6:30 SABC 3, as well as SABC News Channel 404. The English news continues after this. Sir Ndoro, as well as Sir Burke and Lady Thorpe, standing by. Good night.